Ar an group of the Rural Independents, mar Grime or Cur Grime or Oireachtas. Minister, I think this is a very important motion. I think what this motion speaks to is actually both the retention of choice and freedom, and also the dangers of removal of choice and freedom as to how citizens conduct their daily lives and how they transact in their daily lives also. And there is a very strong, as we know, move to digitalisation globally happening, and the environment is changing to favour digital transactions. But there's a significant number in our society, and that will continue to be the case, I think, as people age, who will find themselves less and less favourable to digitisation, particularly as they age. And for those who have grown up using cash, you always felt you knew the value of something because you had to hand over what was in your pocket to pay for it. And as Deputy Lowry has said, now people are tapping their way around society, nearly oblivious to what they're actually paying for something. It's such a simple thing to do, to take out a card and swipe it. If you have to take out your hard-earned payment at the end of a week and transact it in change, I think it's a good discipline for people in terms of budgeting. But I think we've seen a very strong resistance of consumer banks to halt the move to a cashless society for very obvious reasons, because there's very good efficiencies to be gained. There's exceptional tracking and ability to data mine, and also they get to reduce their costs in terms of their overheads. Why would you need a whole plethora of retail banking locations around the country when you can do it all online? And so from the point of view of banks and the financials, there's very good reasons for them to promote us all to continue to adopt a cashless society. But the question has to be asked in our society, who uses cash and why? And largely it's people, the elderly in particular, but it's people who also want to have discretion about what they purchase. Sometimes you may not want other people to know, you may not want other agencies and regulatory bodies to know what it is you purchase, and cash allows you to do that. And I think that's a very important freedom and a choice that we have in this country that must be retained. And I think the legislation must continue to allow payments in cash, and businesses must be required to accept payments in cash. And I think this motion calls for strong legislation to ensure that cash is retained as legal tender, and I certainly support that. We have moved a long way from many hundreds of years ago of having the barter system, and we don't want to see people forced back into such a retrograde step. So one other point I'd make to you is with respect to security. And people are rightly to be concerned in terms of the digital economy as to how cash is maybe subject to digital theft. And what guarantees can banks give in terms of keeping people's funds secure when we've seen such a rise in international and global cybercrime? So these are concerns that people have, and cash and holding a certain amount of cash assuages that. And one final point, Minister, I think we do also need to be aware of the ability of financial institutions to data mine using the amount of tapping that we are now all doing. And it'll be very easy for banks in time to be able to offer, without specific customer information, but to tell other financial institutions what help provider you might use, where your mortgages are placed, what convenience stores you shop in every week. So these are concerns in terms of GDPR, but in the overall I support the motion, and I applaud the Rural Independents for bringing it.